Belarusian is a part of the Slavic language family. All Slavic languages developed from Proto-Slavic, which developed into Western, Southern, and Eastern dialects. Eastern Slavic was spoken in Kievan Rus from 879 to 1240, a federation of East Slavic speakers. While East Slavic was mainly used and spoken for everyday tasks and such, Old Church Slavonic was the formal and liturgical language. In this situation, a state of diglossia occurred. That means that one language or one variety of a language is used in different contexts from another. From 1237 to 1242, the Mongol invasion of the territory led to a lot of foreign Turkic and Mongolic loanwords into East Slavic. Because of this invasion, it caused the federation to split into two separate states. In the east, the Grand Duchy of Moscow emerged, and the dialects evolved into Russian. In the west, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania formed, and the language spoken became the Ruthenian language, which itself devolved into the Ukrainian and Belarusian languages of today, which were more based on daily speech. A little side note here, you might have noticed that I haven't been using this flag. This flag is used for Alexander Lukashenko to represent the Soviet past and used for state institutions or the official government. This flag, however, is used for Belarusian history, culture, and language, also used in sporting events, and is used to represent the Belarusian peoples, the democratic movement, and others. During the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, Latvia, Belarus, Lithuania, and Ukraine all underwent a lot of Polish influence due to geographic proximity and contact, with Ukraine having the most influence, more so in the west of the country. From the Commonwealth to the end of the 18th century, Old Belarusian was common among the minor nobility in eastern parts, in the territory of present-day Belarus. In its vernacular form, it was the language of the smaller town dwellers and of the peasantry, and had been the language of oral folklore. Teaching in Belarusian, however, was conducted mainly in schools, run by the Bastilian order. During the 19th and 20th centuries, there was no standard Belarusian, and authors wrote as they saw fit, usually representing the particularities of different Belarusian dialects. The groundwork for a scientific and modern grammar of the Belarusian language was laid down by linguist Yefim Karski. Famous Belarusian poets Maxim Bandovich and later Branislav Tarashkievich were tasked with making the standard language, along with Russian Academician Shakhmatov, chair of the Russian Language and Literature Department of St. Petersburg University. In 1920, the USSR took control of Belarus, and Russian was made the official language in the country, and as a result, the majority of today's population in Belarus speaks Russian. Yiddish and Polish were also made official languages with equal status in 1924. In 1993, a reform of Belarusian grammar was unexpectedly brought to attention, with the decree of the Council of People's Commissars of BSSR to gain the status of law. Yet another grammar reform in 1959 was to fix problems in orthography and on the further development of the language. This grammar has been accepted as the normative standard for the language since then, receiving minor practical changes in the 1985 edition. In 1991, Belarus became independent of the USSR, but the prioritization of Belarusian itself hasn't been highly promoted as much as Russian has. In the big cities, government, and the capital Minsk, they all mainly speak Russian, while rural areas speak Belarusian more. A big part of Belarusian's history is discrimination against its speakers. Many of these speakers that promote the language are constantly ridiculed and are mainly subject to attack, mainly by hate groups. But as of 2019 forward, however, the language has had a steady increase in both native speakers and education in the language. Still, assimilation to Russian is still very common. Belarusian is the official language of Belarus and Poland, and a minority language in Russia, Ukraine, and Czechia, or the Czech Republic. As of the 2019 census, 2.3 million people speak Belarusian fluently, out of the 9.5 million people in the country. But the majority of citizens have a varying scale of knowledge on the language. A total of 54% consider it their native language, in addition to the hundreds and thousands of second language speakers in neighboring countries and abroad. Note that there's also a population of people that can speak a combination of both Russian and Belarusian, called
Тросянка,
which is similar to that of Surjik, a mix of Ukrainian and Russian, but not much data on how much of the population of Belarus speaks it is available. So, what is Belarusian like? Like other Slavic languages, Belarusian uses the Cyrillic alphabet. Some of the letters are the same as the Latin alphabet, but some of the sounds they represent are different, like these ones. Consonants can have two different pronunciations. hard and soft. Hard sound like English pronunciations, or the proximate to them. And soft are palatalized, meaning they have the sound y following. Some examples are b and y, f and fya, r and rya. This letter is used to represent that soft sound. This distinction is important because many inflectional endings can differ whether or not they're preceded by either a hard consonant or a soft consonant. Grammatical gender. Every noun is categorized into 3 genders: masculine, feminine, and neuter, like most Slavic languages. In the masculine, they generally end in consonants. For example,
Сад,
meaning garden, and
конь,
meaning horse. Feminine nouns generally end in the consonants as well, or the letters a or ya. 2 words are
воля,
meaning vent, and
оповесть.
meaning story. In the neuter gender, they generally end in the vowels a, o, e, or yo. For example,
В озеро,
meaning lake, and
окно,
meaning window. Grammatical case and word order. Let's look at a few simple sentences.
Жанчина п'є воду.
This sentence means the woman drinks water. Woman drinks water.
Мурашка будує крепость.
This means an ant builds a fort. Ant builds fort. Also, for the word drinks, notice this little apostrophe. That represents a hard consonant where you would expect a soft consonant there. Because there are no articles in Belarusian, context allows the person to figure out if the word is definite or indefinite. The case inflections also spell out which is which. Nouns, pronouns, and adjectives take forms that correspond to the grammatical environment. There are 6 grammatical cases: nominative, accusative, dative, genitive, instrumental, and locative, or prepositional. Some nouns precede the vocative, which is used for calling or addressing someone or something, but that's now dropped. Let's take a look at some of the cases for some nouns. In the noun for woman,
Жанчина,
these are the endings for most feminine nouns. For masculine nouns, like
план,
these are the endings that most masculine nouns take. And these are the endings for neuter nouns, with this word
життя,
meaning life. Note that there are many exceptions to the many case inflections for each gender. Adjectives also have their own cases for gender and number. For example,
хуткі,
meaning fast. So if you want to say the fast woman, it's
жанчина хуткая.
with the adjective fast in the feminine nominative form. Verbs. There are 2 tenses in Belarusian, past and non-past. There are also 2 major aspects, which show completion of an action, the perfective aspect, or incompletion of an action, or the progression of an action, the imperfective aspect. Let's look at a pair of verbs.
Написать,
This is a perfective verb, and an imperfective verb.
писать,
These verbs both mean write. The perfective can be made with the suffix na or the prefixes na, v, raz, or pra. So let's take a look at a pair of sentences.
я пишу блог.
This means I write a blog, or I'm writing a blog. The imperfective here is used to show the present tense, or the present progressive, while in this sentence,
Я напишу блог.
the perfective verb here is used to show the future tense. But there are 2 conjugation groups. First conjugation conjugates like this verb,
Бить,
meaning to hit. Second conjugation conjugates like this, with this verb,
стоять,
meaning to stand. But also note, many conjugations are different for both subgroups, which depend on a final consonant or a vowel or something else like that. Let's take a look at a few more sentences and see what we find. This sentence means, that girl knows my sister.
тая дзяўчына ведае маю сястру.
Word for word, it's, that girl knows my sister. Here we see the demonstrative pronoun for that.
Той,
Demonstratives also change depending on case and gender. Because the word for girl is in the nominative singular,
дзяўчына,
that is inflected for nominative feminine.
тая,
Next we see the third person singular of to know someone.
ведае,
Possessives in Belarusian also inflect for case and gender. Because the word for sister is in the accusative case, the possessive pronoun for my
мой,
is also inflected accusative feminine.
мою.
And one more sentence. This sentence means we read 3 books today.
Мы чыталі 3 кнігі сёння.
Word for word, it's we read 3 books today. Belarusian is a pro-job language, so the subject pronoun is only added for emphasis, and because the verb conjugates to agree with the subject. but we'll come back to this part a little later. Next we see the past tense of the verb read.
Читать.
In the past tense, the conjugations work a little more differently. You still remove this particle from the infinitive, but the endings actually correspond to the gender and number of the subject, rather than person. These past tense suffixes only correspond to gender and number. While subject pronouns are job for present and past tense if the subject is clear, most past tense sentences include that subject pronoun because they clarify which ending refers to which noun. So males would say,
Я читал.
but females would say,
Я читала.
if you're talking to a male, you'd say,
Ты читал.
but talking to a female, you'd say.
Ты читала.
Next, the word for books is in the feminine plural, accusative.
Книги.
So the number 3
Три.
will also decline for case, but not for gender. Finally, we have the word for today.
Сёння.
The word here can actually be put anywhere in the sentence, but I put it here to match the English syntax. As you can see, Belarusian is an interesting language to say the least. While it is a Slavic language, meaning that it's very inflective, most people don't really see Belarusian as important, which is a shame, because it really needs more love and attention. I certainly hope it actually does get that attention and it doesn't go extinct. Maybe with more importance on Belarusian and less importance on Russian, maybe Belarusian can actually survive. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. My name is Shade, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, see ya.